Hmm. We are not quacking tonight. This is probably going to be a relatively short stream because I also didn't get quite enough sleep last night, but we're just going to do a little bit of compiler stuff and then go to bed. That is how it's going. Okay, so we have this issue. Really not sure what to think about this. Well, we could say a ridge expression here. Oh, we did do that. Oh, but then we didn't say site. That's the mistake. Duh, I already did all the work. I thought this was going to be hard. But it's like right there. Wait. Except it didn't. Dang it. Okay, debug build. What the hell is going on? Maybe site or null is null. In fact, I bet site or null is null. But then it should be a ridge expression. A ridge expression shouldn't be substituted unless somebody had substituted it. Okay. Whoa. What? Oh, because it's polymorphic. All right, that's a little bit weird. It's a little bit not sure what to think about this. Okay. Why? Like, we're literally just saying if foo here. Why don't we catch this? Can we not catch this at type check time? Can we not simply say, bro? Because that would be better. That would be better. I feel like it's sort of my duty to do that, but then I didn't do it. If you want to make a game engine yourself, you go for OpenGL or DirectRx or something else. It doesn't matter. If you don't know the answer to that question already, then you don't have the knowledge required to make a good game engine yet, which is fine because that's where a lot of people are in the beginning, right? So your real goal should be get all the knowledge necessary to make a good game engine. All right. That's the real question, not should I use OpenGL or DirectX. Compiler should just say, bro, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, we could have it check the clock. And if it's April Fool's Day, it just says, bro, you're doing something wrong. No further help. No further help. Confused by $F foo is the C++ closest translation foo of T. Maybe. Sort of, yeah, except foo could have an arbitrary number of parameters and you don't have to list them. And yeah, it's something like that. Okay, so the question is, do I do a simple small Band-Aid fix to this? Or do I do an attempted big fix that could go wrong? I feel like the attempted big fix is the correct fix. However, the reason I'm hesitating on this is it involves checking every expression. In a way that there may not be a good way to do it. Let me just see. Okay. Let me just verify that we don't actually have the information. Oh, we can't even get that right. Okay. Because this frickin' assertion, let me just try commenting this out. We're just going to temporarily, because that's stopping us from getting even to the place we're trying to break. Okay, so we got here. So site or null is null. I imagine okay, so post not condition is already const. substituted. Because maybe split condition did that. Count and strip knots. Okay, so this is all some stuff that I did back when we were doing good Weissman score kind of things. Because, you know, you want, like, the naive way to compile an if statement is to evaluate the condition, cast it to a Boolean, and then evaluate the branches of the if statement separately from that, right? But the evaluating the condition, like, is the truth value of the if statement. So you like want to boil that down as much as possible, right? So here's the problem is we are counting and stripping knots, which in this case doesn't even do anything because there are no knots. However, we are going down the substitution, and this is what is destroying the location information. Now, there's a very specific solution that I could put in for this, but before I do that, I just want to verify what happens in these other cases. So, like, what if I just do this, right? Okay, that gets caught by a declaration checker. What if I just say this? Okay. But that actually gives me the line number because the site gets correctly passed. So the real problem is in the if statement case, the site is not correctly passed. We can fix this specific case, and then, you know, it's a little bit lazy to just say, oh, then it's done. So what you really want to do is search the code for other things that call emit expression and make sure they pass a site. Okay, so count and strip knots. Well, we're just going to say here, and the maybe split condition part is about, like, again, if you have a Boolean expression that's like if A is greater than B, we know that the CPU tends to have branch instructions that test those codes, right? And so we actually do that breakdown ourselves, where we put that into the if statement ourselves, as opposed to evaluating A is greater than B and then doing an if statement on equal or not equal on the other thing. Okay. So the problem is there might be a lot of emit expressions that don't. Here's what I could do. I'm just going to do the following for now. So we're just going to pass this, which is not quite exactly right, but it's probably fine for almost all practical purposes. Maybe. I'm not actually, in the split condition case, I'm actually not sure. Not sure that I like it. We'll see. It's like this will solve this case and it'll always tell you the right expression. It's just you might be confused because it's telling you a little bit much. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Polymorphic procedures are not legal as runtime expressions. Here is the procedure that's still polymorphic. Why is it only 2 characters highlight? I don't frickin' know. WTF. But already it's better. It's much more helpful. What are my thoughts on auto? I've owned 3 autos in my life. The current one is the best one. Know the keyword. Have you ever watched me program? Have you ever looked at what is on the screen right now? Thoughts on manual? It's kind of fun, but it really not actually good. It was fun when I had a Honda CRX to sort of you could sort of learn double clutching, but then there's also a thing that you could do that's even better than double clutching, which is like there's like, at least on the CRX, maybe on a lot of cars, there's just like an exact right time when you can manually shift the gear without using the clutch at all. At least all the way up to 3rd gear, I could do it. It's like, if you know exactly when, you just go pop and it goes. Do Teslas have a manual option? No. Yeah, manual is super annoying in San Francisco because of all the hills. So like it was fun to learn to get good at gear shifting, especially because I was horrible at it. Like I learned to drive in the CRX, and for some reason shifting into 2nd gear was really hard for a long time. Like I just didn't get it. But then eventually I was pretty good at it. Polymorphic procedures are not legal as runtime expressions. Okay, so what is the site? It's the cast. It's an implicit cast. Character 8 to 11. And the target expression is the identifier, right? So this is like casting to bool. Expression, lambda. And it like stripped the identifier for some reason. Okay, where does this happen? First year university professor used the manual gear analogy for low level languages. Yeah, I don't think that's a good analogy. I don't understand what he would be using that to say even. But yeah. Why is this all one big file with 6,000 lines? Because I know how to fucking program. Okay. Did I not set the breakpoint? I didn't. Like, I love it when the second year college sophomore programmer comes in and says, "Why are you not doing things like my teacher who doesn't program for a living said not to do?" It's like, okay. So we're making an implicit cast. That is no surprise. We are stripping the expression again, which is troublesome. I kind of think we shouldn't do that. But here we copy the location information, and so it should be correct, right? It's an identifier, character 8 to 11. Eight, 9, 10, 11. So why is the highlighting not right? Your professor said 5,000 lines is bad and unmaintainable. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's that much code, whether it's in multiple files or one file. Like, isn't it a lot more important what the particular code looks like than how many files it's in? I will say that if you're using something like Visual Studio Jump to Definition, like having a trillion files is less of a hindrance because you kind of don't know where things are anyway, but the computer gives 0 fucks how many files your code in. It actually does give a little bit of fucks how many files your code is in, and no surprise, it slightly prefers them to be in fewer files. Not tremendously. It's mostly the same program, but it does slightly prefer. You end up with like 30 files open. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, a lot more than 30 if you're in some of these projects. Like reasons why you want things in the same file. For example, in a language like C or C++, they'll go into the same object file, which means they'll be located next to each other in the executable, which means that they'll be near each other for instruction cache purposes and more predictable by the CPU. And guess what? Things that you put in the same file are likely to be related to each other, right? So you destroy that information if you put them into a bunch of files, and then you're kind of hoping that the compiler will do something to restore that information, which it probably won't, right? That's just one reason to put things together in a file. 30 before you give up and jump off the building, yeah. Old computers did not like big files. That is true, but it's been approximately 30 years since big files were fine. So we should notice this. Does this hold in this language? In this language, not currently. It doesn't. However, we can ultimately do better things. We just don't do them yet, right? so like we can see your entire call graph at compile time, unlike C or C++, which like, you know, in C or C++, you've got one compilation unit out of many, and it sees the header file, right? And it just takes it, like, it uses that to link to some external thing, right? We can, instead of using a header file, we can just see the thing that you're calling, right? So we could like put things next to each other in the executable based on a complete call graph analysis of your program, right? Which is actually better than hoping that they're associated in the same file. The problem is we don't do that, right? So that's just a trade-off that we're making for now, right? Which is why I said languages like C and C++. One of your clients has segmented one of their programs into 351, only 351 files. You look at something like LLVM, it's thousands of files. Maybe tens of thousands, I don't even know. LTO solves that. Sort of, yeah. I agree. It helps. The problem is LTO adds a tremendous amount of system complexity because all the optimizations that you have in your compiler now have to be in the linker as well, and you have to do them twice, right? So like all the inlining and stuff that you already did, you have to do again, and it's like a separate set of passes, and who knows even if it's doing the same thing or what the fuck is going on, right? So I am not a fan of LTO. I agree that it has some benefits. But I think, yeah, I mean, you know, like it's one of those, like C's been around since the 1970s. And so you don't, you wouldn't, if you made a language now, you wouldn't expect to make the same design decisions as were made in 1970, like obviously, right? On GCC, the linker calls back into the compiler for LTO. That implies certain things about the architecture of your compiler. Like it implies that you're actually doing all those optimizations on the actual machine language, which there are benefits to that, but there are drawbacks to that. It's a lot more complicated than if you do them on your own internal representation, and it's completely unportable, right? So every backend for every CPU has to have a separate implementation of all those things. Whereas if you inlined in your internal representation, right, that's the same implementation for all backends. So there are trade-offs, right, to these things. It adds intermediate representation to the object files and then compiles again at link time. I see. So it probably makes linking a lot slower. I mean, obviously doing the optimization makes linking slower. And then also the added storage and writing things out and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, let me go back to trying to solve this. I've sort of solved the submitter who is in the streaming audience, the main complaint. But what I don't understand is why is the whole foo not read? The line must be drawn here. In the old days, when the compiler was earlier and we didn't have any beta users, or we hardly had any beta users, it was like, that's not that important. It's telling people the problem. We'll let it slide. But now it's like, what's going on? Why is that still a thing? I wonder if it's like some kind of carriage return line feed issue because I pasted it and there's something invisible eating a character. Let's just go to the Lexer and actually let's do a thing. We could go no colors. That's not it. I don't even know my own options, guys. No color, no S. Okay, here it put the carrots in the right place. Here it didn't put the non-carrots in the right place. What? What? Excuse me? Cancel all software. It doesn't work. The size of the O looks different. It is different, I think. I think this is supposed to be bold and red or something like that. But bold is smaller for some reason in this font or whatever the terminal's doing with it. It's definitely a different size though. Off by one issue with inserting the second color code to turn off red. I mean, maybe, but wouldn't we see that everywhere? Why is it only on the word foo? Did we just like break identifiers? Oh, I did the identifier parsing update. Maybe identifiers are just have been broken for a couple betas, but I didn't even notice. Can any beta users verify this? Has this been happening for just like all identifiers since I did that like a week ago or whatever? Like, what if I say, hello is hi, why int is hello, right? No, that's fine. Maybe it's the identifier inside if somehow. It's not all identifiers. Now it got it. So it's something about the space parsing maybe. If there's a space after it. No. It's if we end in space. Because this is exactly the same. We don't care for language parsing about there being a new line here. So it's identifiers that have a new line at the end inside the same cache line or some shit. Right? So like if I put a few spaces, it's probably... Okay, it's like if it's the last character before a new line or something. But it actually gets the right characters. Like it's not like it actually misses one. It's the code that colors text. No, I don't think it's the code that colors text. Oh, no, maybe it is. No, you're right. Maybe it is. because the numbers are probably the same. Let me print out character 1 because we have the indexes for the ranges. So I could say 8 to whatever. And if that doesn't change between these two, then we know it's that other code. Okay, good point. So, okay. I hope I pass it down this far. Yeah. So I don't think I normally want this, so we're going to no check in, take that out. All right. So this one is 8 to 14. And I think it's like it's +1, right? So 8 to 8 would be an empty string. So then I go here. I bet it is 8 to 14 again. 8 to 4. You're right. It is the highlighting code. It is the highlighting code. Probably. Let's take a look at that. Because I do think okay, show error context. Okay. So we put highlight. We f-write the middle bytes. Okay. So that's going to mess up the formatting a little bit. But I just want to see what is going on there. All right. So leading 7, middle 6, trailing 1. And then here, middle 5, trailing 1. That's the wrong number. But that's C1 minus C0. Oh, I bet it's this. It is this right here. I bet if I do this for now. There we go. So this is causing a problem. What are we saying here? Total bytes is the total number of bytes. The line dot length. That includes a new line. Oh. My code was not very based. All right. Okay. Okay, so we still want to do this pass where we look at things. Miss 2021 looks like a Pissed reboot. I never played Pissed. Zero based and one based. Yeah, so things that are stored in memory in systems programming languages are typically, you start counting at 0 because it's the distance in memory from the starting byte, right? But when you're using, there are conventions that human beings use that start with 1. For example, the first line in your program is line 1, not line 0, right? The first column is column 1, not column 0. So it just, that code was getting that wrong. That said, maybe we should start a convention that those are 0 based now. I don't know. Or like even like arguments to a procedure in C. Like error messages say argument 1 for the first argument, not argument 0, right? It's just, there's just some things that we conventionally start with 1, and that's confusing when there are other things that start with 0, right? That said, if you don't really do a lot of pointer math, the C justification kind of decreases somewhat. Although it's still there because like that's what machine language wants, and then when you translate into machine language, you would have to like subtract 1, which is stupid. I don't know. It has to have 0 characters. I see. Anyway. Like the problem, let me see how many emit expressions there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's going to be a fucking fuck ton of them. But like, I'm actually not going to, you know what? We're not going to worry about it. We're going to handle it in a case-by-case way because a lot of these will not actually cause a problem. And there might be a couple more that will, but in the long term, okay, so part of the problem is when things are constant. So, okay, if we go here, this foo, before we messed with it, is a constant. It refers to this constant, right? And so we have this thing that we do where sometimes we just substitute this for this. And maybe it's a bad idea to do that as much as we do internally because it sort of destroys information about where the thing was, right? And so you maybe don't want to do that often. But also, I want to change the way this substitution information is stored. And it might just be that in the final version of how that information is stored, you can just see you can just see where the original expression was. So I kind of don't want to put in all this grunt work that might have to get reversed later anyway. I think I would rather leave it with just this fix. Lua does that implicit -1. Yeah, I mean, Pascal did too, I think. There's some programming languages, I forget which ones, where you can declare per array whether it's 0-based or 1-based. Yeah. Okay. I've got to explain. This site is just so that when we get an error like using a fic expression, we can tell the user where it came from. The issue is we iterate through, so we perform substitutions. Helper, and this destroys location info. In the long term, we probably want to change the way substitutions are stored anyway, and hopefully in that new format, location info is available. Dude, it's the end of the month already. I thought it was just August 16 like a second ago. What is going on? It's like the end of August. Guys, my birthday is in a little more than 2 months. And I'm going to turn 20 at that time. Wouldn't it have been great to be born on January 1st, 2000? Because then you would know how old you are at any time. You wouldn't have to figure it out. December 31st, 1999. Well, there you go. That's, you know, basically correct. When you realize how easy it was to soft lock, how did you soft lock? There is an undo, you know that, right? There's an undo button. Okay, so we are telling the person who is on the stream via email that this is fixed in the next beta. Okay, somebody else has a bug that doesn't sound good. We'll at least take a look at it. It might end up being bedtime. I have this weird thing now. I used to, back a long time before I turned 20, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'd go out to nightclubs all the time. I would be out till like 3 or 4 a.m. and then I would just sleep 8 or 9 hours. And I'd wake up at 2 in the afternoon and it's fine, right? Nowadays, I seem to be waking up an awful lot at like 7:30 in the morning, regardless of what time I went to sleep. And that's not very good. So I'm going to try to go to bed before 1 a.m. tonight, just for sleep quality reasons. Old man behavior. Well, sorry. At least I'm producing value to deliver eventually to the people at 10:46 p.m. And not because I woke up at 9 p.m. like some people. All right. So this looks to me like it should be legal. I feel like if we do, let's just see. Oh, you know what? I didn't check in the other thing. Hold on. Hold your horses. Wow, we're on beta 82. To think, I used to be we didn't, or I did not revert that. I used to feel like I had a bad work ethic and had a hard time getting things done. Made frickin' 82 betas. And I ain't getting paid for this shit. You know what I'm saying? 82. Well, we've delivered 81, so that's how many actually count. All right. What changed from the time I thought I wasn't productive till now? I don't know. I mean, I definitely, so here's the thing. There's two stages of thinking I wasn't productive. One of them was working on various other projects, whatever, and like not being that motivated and not doing a good job, right? But that's on like other people's projects, right? But then also I had a long time when I was working on my own projects, which I probably wasn't super productive at altogether, but I was more productive than on other people's stuff. But like I just never really nailed the thing that I really wanted to super do, like long term, like no big complex thing. I would always give up on it and go to the next thing. And so I don't know, I just got good at some point. I'm getting paid in exposure. I'm getting paid on spec. If you've ever seen the movie Tapeheads, you know about spec. Yeah, at some point, I just decided or figured out how to be working on projects that were good enough that I didn't want to quit them, basically, I guess. Also, I think there's something about getting older. So like 4 years ago when I was turning 16, I was like, wow, I expected to be a really smart person who was going to get all sorts of cool stuff done, and I'm turning 16 and that's pretty old. And what happened, right? So that's when I sat down and worked really hard on Braid and finished it cuz like, is there any kind of process to go from interesting philosophical thoughts to game design ideas? See, I don't really think it works like that. Like, interesting philosophical thoughts happen in the medium of philosophical thoughts, and good games happen in the medium of good games, right? And bridging between those is not really an automatic thing. Most things in one medium don't work that well in another medium, right? Now, if you have a lot of backgrounds in interesting philosophical thoughts, if you have read a lot of interesting things and thought about a lot of interesting things, then some small percentage of them will happen to translate to something that you are able to see how to put in a game. But it's not like you could take anything and make a game with it that works. I don't think so. I mean, whatever, people do that. They make a game that's fictionally about the concept, but that's different. Have you ever used unbuffered IO? Um, Probably. Still interested in moving from SF? Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking I might move just to one of the neighboring places so I could still come to work all the time or something. I don't know. What's a big argument? It is um, any struct or like the string type, because that's, yeah. I think that's it. I don't know. There's probably some other things that count as big. Oh, arrays. Arrays are big. Any array. I thought the idea was to get out of California. It is, but like I don't know. Oakland, probably not. I would like rather live in Palo Alto or somewhere than Oakland. I'm tired of the rundown, crappy cities being run by left wing people who claim they're trying to make life better for everybody, but don't observe the evidence about how what they're doing isn't actually working. Like I'm too old for that shit, right? I'm turning 20 this year. Casted my recall vote. I have an entire recall petition here with like 15 signature slots on it that I was going to go collect for, but I might just go down so I don't have to fill this one out. I might just go down the street and sign up that way. Come back to Berkeley. Yeah, Berkeley would be a possibility. It's just, again, some parts of Berkeley are so bad now. Also, I have weird memories of it because I went to college there and was not very happy at college. But those are pretty far in the past now. Have I ever considered Europe? No. I would not live in Europe. Europe is not a freedom state. How is Palo Alto? It's nice. Like, I like being around during the day when it's warm and there's people around doing stuff. And I could like go to a coffee shop and get a matcha latte and like be chilling with my laptop in warm weather. And you can do that in Palo Alto very easily. What are my thoughts on Larry Elder? He would be much better as governor of California than Gavin Newsom. That are my thoughts on Larry Elder. Do I consider U.S. as a freedom state? It's less of a freedom state than it used to be, but more so than most places in the world. Australia? Ha ha ha, no. Are you kidding? I used to think about moving to Australia, but it's like such an authoritarian hell state now. I can't imagine wanting to go there. It's like super conformist, weird, authoritarian, terrible place. Would I go to Mars if Elon gets things working? I mean, that would be a while from now. So, like, I would be pretty old at that point, 20 plus some number of years, like pretty much 24. So we would have to see if they want an old 24-year-old on Mars, if there's any point. Although, being in lower gravity when you're old. No, don't say that I would be 25. Okay. 24. 24. Forget about it. "24 is the highest number. Okay. So we have this thing. And I want to see if it gives a different error if I just do like this. I don't know. A 50-50 on this one. Hey, look, it fucking compiles. So that's great. I always like to send workarounds to people as soon as I have them, in case they're being inconvenienced by the fact that their frickin' code doesn't run right now. Should you avoid using delegates? That's like some object-oriented thing that I don't know what you mean. Thought type was a real compiler struct. Sure, but when I put a $sign in front of it, it just becomes a variable name. It isn't available. This language is available. I'm using it just fine. What are you talking about? It's here on my screen. It is here on my screen. It is obviously available. Okay, so we kind of have to figure out why we're giving this error in this case. Pretty weird for a Dota streamer to play The Witness, but I'm glad you liked it. Okay. Not widely available? I don't know. My code is pretty wide. It's hundreds of thousands. Our project is hundreds of thousands of lines, sort of. It's pretty wide. Okay. Some value source is a type. All right, so the error message we are getting is attempt to use a type has no meaning. Yes, that's a recent error message that I put in. And this is happening in resolve struct dereference. This is called 016.SunTypes. Okay. We are inferring types for this binary operator. But shouldn't the left type be polyuse anyway? No. Oh, is it a... It's a definer. No? Type definition. Defin flags 8? Oh, because it's a type. Okay, solution number 1. We check if we're in the argument or return block of a procedure that requires auto bake. Like, that's the extremely specific workaround to this. Is there a more general workaround? The deal is, okay, when you put a $sign here, it's polymorphic, right? When you put one here, it's like not. It's requires auto bake, which has different behavior when it comes to inferring the types of the header. If it's polymorphic, we just say, okay, we're not going to try because we can't really say what the types of things are. Or like if this type is not known, then obviously you can't dereference something of that type, right? But we're saying the type is known. But we don't know what it is. So I'm a little bit... So he's trying to do a static dereference. Okay. So normally if it's a static dereference, I think this works. Oh, no. This is getting the left hand. Wait, really? Hold on. This is polyuse. Okay. No, so we actually know what's going on. We just didn't pay attention. Wait, not return. I bet we actually check for that later in the code. Let's see. Yep. Now, you know what? Yeah. We'll go ahead and do that. I'm not actually going to type the comment first because let's make sure that this actually works. Hey. Okay, so we're going to say we check for poly use later down this routine, but here we need check for it in order not to issue these error messages. And well, actually, can't I just you know what? Oh, never mind. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Let's make sure we didn't break anything. Okay. Boom. So we're going to say, what beta was this broken in? In beta 80. Fixed. Okay. That's, like, here's the thing, guys. Most people, their work day is over. They're home at 9:30 p.m. They're going to drink a beer and watch sports. Or, I don't know, what do people do? They like watch porn or something? I don't know. Or you could go on Twitch TV and start streaming to the people, and you could make 3 values that you could give to people later before you go to bed, right? And if you just do that 4 or 5 times a week for 50 years, then you've really got something. Yeah, I also, I sent you an email with a workaround that you can try and should be fine as well. It's a very stupid workaround, but it should work for you in the meantime. And then, so I don't want to emergency ship this beta because we just did one 24 hours ago, but we'll save up a few more fixes and send it to people. Not enough IQ, but you get more IQ by doing this. I now have more IQ than I did at 9:30 p.m. or whenever we started this stream. 10 p.m. almost. Because I did these three, I have 3 more IQ points than I did when we started. Yeah, I have like 24 IQ now. Imagine that. Imagine that you had an IQ of 24. It'd be crazy, right? All right. Okay. I have earned the right to go to bed. We could look for someone to raid again. It's been a short stream, but, you know, it was just about adding some value, right? Just added a little bit of value before bedtime. Easy. Easy. Just do that every hour of every day, and you'll have something. Making an MMO. I feel like we rated this before. Did we? Did we do making an MMO game from scratch? REST API. I'm about to go partake in a REST API. Adam C. Eunice is online. Yeah, we're considering rating him. We always want to go for the underdog. He's like a big dog in science and technology. Look at that, 143. So like we want to spread it around to the people who are not yet that big. Retro mansion game.
Wait, can I drop Brett? Can I drop Brett the whole fucking room and create a copy? So I'm gonna create a...
Dirty mouth.
Yeah, I'm gonna create a copy here.
All right, well, that could be a thing. Feed sheep with cryptocurrency. Why don't I do feed sheep with cryptocurrency instead of programming? It's ridiculous what I do. Okay, I think we're out of programmers. Okay. Let's go ahead and do Adam C. Eunice because we haven't rated him in a while. Actually, we kind of did like a month ago, didn't we? Wait, is he gone? No, he's up here. All right. We're going to raid the popular people and it'll trickle down. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later.